Damn, can I put like background on this? Okay, so we're gonna study some Japanese today. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is so like my phrases here that I've got and that I learned yesterday, right? For the different foods, different things like that. One of the things that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use ChatGPT and the little bot I program to give me five different, or give me 10 different drinks, right? Because I don't have any drinks here. All I've got is food, right? Um, so I'm gonna add some drinks in here so that I can use the word of to drink, right? So here, day two, today's 2-3, second, right? And so you, okay, so gyu, as I'm looking at this, it has to be something to do with beef, right? Because gyuniku is beef, gyu is milk. That's funny. Okay, so first thing I learned yesterday was how to say "I want this, please." So watashi wa gyuniku o kudasai. Watashi wa salmon o kudasai. Watashi wa eh, ソーセージ をください。私はリンゴをください。の、私は、いちごを買う。Is that correct? 私は I think that's correct. We're going to check that in a second. 私は、スイカを買う。And then I'm going to practice this idea of like the going to. 私は水を飲むつもりです。私 and I can actually get rid of the watashi wa, so I'm going to do that. お茶を飲むつもりです。コーヒーを飲むつもりです。One thing I need to learn how to say is I want plus do another verb. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT about this when I get to it. Video nomo tsumori desu. Right? And then maybe I want to start using some of these verbs here to say like maguri maguro o yaku tsumori desu. Tori Miku o yaku tsumori desu. Sakana o yaku tsumori desu. Great. What can I boil here? Ebi o niru tsumori desu. I'm gonna have to fix that real fast. So what was it? Ebi o niru tsumori desu. Kani o niru tsumori desu. Yasai o itameru tsumori desu. ninjin o itameru tsumori desu. Jagaimo o itameru tsumori desu. I'm gonna use wash. Mikano arao tsumori desu. Mango o arao tsumori desu. Painapuru arao o arao tsumori desu. Banana o taberu tsumori desu. Right. So I'm gonna take this. This is my warm up here. Just practicing some of the structures I looked at the day before, and add this in here. So let me switch over here to the ChatGPT I got going on. Check these for correctness. Okay, so now I'm going to check two observations. So how do I say I want to verb in Japanese? Tai desu. Okay, so I have to ask that question. What is the masu form? So I don't know what that is. This is the great thing about ChatGPT, is it will just explain this everything. Polite verb form. Okay. So then taberu, nomu, etc. is impolite or dictionary or neutral. I love to use ChatGPT to just test hypotheses. Okay. And how do you go from dictionary to polite form? Is there a pattern? Okay, so that means nomu. What was it? Okay, so now I know that there's 3 groups of verbs. Three groups of verbs. Ends in u. The 3 groups are ends in u. We're going to remove u, add e, add masu. Ends in ru, remove ru, add masu. And then there's some irregulars. I'm not going to worry about that. then there's irregulars like suru, which becomes shimasu, and kuru, which becomes kimasu, right? Okay, cool. And then the I want idea is tai desu. Tai desu. I want to, right? So here with the verbs I've got, so yakitai desu. Soseji o yakitai desu. What can I boil here? Yasai o ni itai desu. Yasai o itametai desu. Let's see. Tame negi o kitai desu. Mango o araitai desu. Jusu o nomitai desu. Kohi o nomitai desu. And orange o tabitai desu. Ichigo o tabetai desu. No. Right, and so I'm just going to check that all of these are I want to. Cool. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to go into my little Spanish thing and be like, okay, this is what I want to learn. All right, so I'm going to give this. I want to learn 15 new verbs, basic directions, how to 3 common ways to ask for directions, 3 common ways they will begin answers. I want to learn to handle shopping, not checking out. So basic clothing for a guy, basic colors and sizes, and how to ask for clothes. So now I'm going to take these verbs, I'm going to apply that idea of place, right? So like, how do you say it? So like, can I say watashi wa maru o Kitai desu. I want to go to the mall. Watashi wa maru haitai. Maru o haitai desu. I want to enter the mall. Arukitai desu. I want to walk. Hashitai desu. I want to run. Sensei o kiku tsumori desu. Yeah, test that out. I'm just going to copy these verbs over to my little list. All right, basic directions. We're keeping this in a mall, so I want these 3 directions. So I'm gonna say, give me these directions. Give me these plus here and there. Use them in some easy A1 level sentences with translations. Okay, so I'm going to ask for an explanation of ni particle and how to differentiate just u ending for tai desu versus ru ending. Okay. Really? right. Still nobody out here. Fucking bombs. All right. So back with the question words. So we're gonna add these question words here in this document. Nope. So we can add them later. Great. Okay. Migi desu, hirari desu, masu wa desu, koko desu, soko desu, toire wa migi desu, tori wa toire wa eki wa hirari desu, koen wa masugu desu, eki wa chikaku desu, koko wa toi desu, koko wa mise desu, asoko wa eki desu. Okay, so toire, toire, toire is restroom, eki, station, koen, park, gakko, school, koki wa mise, mise is store. So now I've managed to get some places. I've managed to get this use of ni as like a direction. And then okay, but how do I know hashiru becomes hashiritai versus taberu becomes tabetai, because they're dictionary forms both in rule. So what is the rule there, or is it just a memorization thing? Okay. Yeah, this is one of the favorite things I love about ChatGPT is the ability to like test conjectures, right? And kind of figure shit out on your own, right? Okay. And so now I'm gonna tell ChatGPT, okay, so for the future, only give me, so for the time being, give me the Masu form first, and then the dictionary form after, so I can link them. Update this in your programming now. Now, so what I'm going to do in order to take advantage of that is take all of these verbs that I've got so far, and I'm going to update them. So hey, there's somebody here watching me. What's up, dude? Great question. So the first day I focused on like I like to focus on survival situations in the beginning of like, hey, I'm going to learn how to order food, both in a restaurant and in a market, right? And then right now, what I'm trying to focus on is one, I'm using ChatGPT to kind of like guess some things, right, and figure out like what is going on and what's the better way to learn this language. As I'm just making this up as I go along, and I'm not really using like a book. And then I'm going to focus on here shortly. I've been looking at the situation of like getting directions. And then tomorrow I'll probably get into like more like shopping, right? Because the idea being like I want to be able to order food so that I can eat and survive. Then I want to be able to ask directions to get where I want to go. So learning a few places, like basic spots around town, and then be able to like go into a place and buy things, right? And deal with numbers a little bit. It's a good question. Cool. Somebody here. Love it. Psycha Quest. I hope I said that right. So what I just did right now is I went through and took all the verbs that I've gotten so far, and I discovered that I was learning the verbs slightly wrong, and that there's an easier way to do it by learning the like polite form first, and then learning the not polite form after that. So I went through and got all of those polite forms, and I copied and pasted it over to the what's it called? The sheet I'm using to keep all this stuff in order to make it a little bit easier. So now what I'm going to do, now that I know this, I've got some basic places. I've got some basic, let me share the other screen. Essentially, yeah. So like, I'm like looking at like I want to learn to like conquer situations first. Like you're just learning, memorizing phrases, right? And then from there, and this is not like the first, this is also not like the first language I've learned. And so I found it a lot more fun to kind of reverse engineer it, like you're saying, and be like, okay, does this make sense? I find that it's easier to learn if it's easier to remember things if you start to like, take a stab at things and guess, because whether you're right or wrong, your brain is starting to get into like the patterns it needs and like the pattern recognition it needs to like learn a language, right? So learning like phrases and keywords, and then being like, okay, let's figure out the grammar as we go, to be able to say things, right? Because if I just start, in my case, like I could probably sit there and just study the grammar, and I've done that with languages before. But like, especially when it's like a crazy language like this, it's completely different. I'm like, I would rather not do that because I'm just going to confuse myself. I want to be able to like have enough of a base to then go look back at it and be like, oh, I've seen this already a dozen times, versus just trying to learn straight grammar. It just having a base makes it a little bit easier. So like, let's share. So I also learned a new little particle. So I'm gonna look at that. So like, I'm just making conjectures here. So I've got the idea. So I could say, I know how to say like, I want, and I am going to, right? So with these different verbs. So like I could say like, so I want is going to be that tai desu. This is going to be tsumori desu. So like I could say maguro o tabetai desu. Maguro o taberu tsumori desu. Misu o nomitai desu. I want to drink water. Misu o nomu tsumori desu. I'm going to drink water. Yasai or ichigo o kai tai desu. I want to buy strawberries. Ichigo o kao tsumori desu. I'm going to do this. Can you see it now? Let me know if you can't see it. I think you should be able to see it. Okay, cool. So what happened with the places? The places were toire. So toire is restroom. Eki is station. Koen is park. Gakko is school. And let me say store. All right, so now I've got some locations for some of these verbs. So like this could be like, where's it? Okay, so I can go with, if I want to say like I want to go to the restroom, I can say ikitai, no, toire ni ikitai desu. Toire ni iku tsumori desu. Koen, no, gakko ni kitai desu. I want to come to school. Gakko ni kuru tsumori desu. And again, I'm just like looking at patterns at this point, right? Like there's going to be exceptions, but you kind of got to learn the exceptions as you go, you know? Like, there's no point in learning like all the exceptions right up front. Like, you got to recognize the pattern and then deal with the exceptions, right? So like maybe some of these are not going to be wrong when I go and check them, but or not going to be right when I go and check them, but it's not the end of the world, right? So like I could say, for example, mise ni hairi tai desu. I want to go into the store. Mise ni hairu tsumori desu. I'm going to go into the store. Gakko ni detai desu. I want to leave the store. Mise gakko ni deru tsumori desu. I'm going to leave the store. Let's see. Koen ni arukitai desu. I want to walk in the park. Koen ni aruku tsumori desu. Hashiri tai, no. Koen ni hashiri tai desu. I want to run in the park. Koen ni hashiru tsumori desu. I'm going to run in the park. I'm going to take all these. Let me switch over to ChatGPT. And so I'm going to have ChatGPT take all these sentences and ask it, are these correct? Does that make sense? Which is two different questions. Like, are they understandable enough to like understandable to be like understood, or are they correct? Right? Cool. Making sense. Right? Okay, so this is like an English thing. This actually, I get corrected. I used to get corrected on this when I in speaking Spanish. I'm sure it's something I mess up all the time, but like we use the word come a lot in English. Like, I'm gonna come to the school, right? Even though more technically speaking, it should be go to the school, right? Somebody else has to come to where you're at versus I'm going to where somebody else is at. But like in English, we don't really care. We use both kind of interchangeably. Like I can say I'm gonna come to the school at 7, right? Instead of I'm gonna go to the school at 7. So it's like Japanese is more on the lines of Spanish with that one of wanting to use go and not come to the school, right? So, which I think I use itikai and tsumori desu already. Cool. Perfect. All right, so it's pro drop, so I don't have to include the like subjects if it's clear from what I'm talking about. I don't think there's verb conjugation in that sense in Japanese, like there's in like Spanish and French, where the verb depends changes on the subject, which I'm going to check that now. Does Japanese have verb conjugation like Spanish or German, where the verb changes based on subject? I don't think it does. Yeah, that might be it. But you can see it now, right? I think you should be able to see it right now. That's probably what it's doing. Is like while it's loading, it's black, right? So Japanese does not conjugate based on subject, unlike Spanish and German. Cool, got it. Great. Okay, so now I'm gonna go with. I had it here. T-shirt, shirt. All right. Basically. All right. So now, so what I did was kind of like I outlined the lesson plan I wanted to go over, and then I started like, so I had like the big outline, and then each part I kind of went through and like chunked it down and like started asking questions, started practicing and things like that. Right. So like now, I've gone back here. Kono arimasu ka. Okay, so looking at this, I got a few questions. So what is kono? What is ka? I'm gonna copy all this. So I don't have to go find it later. Yeah, I mean, you gotta, and the thing is, I'm like basically using. I teach Spanish for a living, and so like I'm basically using the like outline of how I go through and teach Spanish, how I've taught myself. I mean, it's the same thing for how I've taught myself French and Portuguese, Italian, German, Arabic. Same kind of basic idea, and I'm just taking it and applying it to this. So like making the full like lesson plan, and then going back through and kind of breaking it down and diving into it. Connotation. So. All right, so question particle. Cool. Kore wa. So this is like this subject marker. What is question mark? Okay, interesting. Okay, so kono. So like we could say like kono t-shatsu arimasu. This is to have. No. Ka. So like, do you have this t-shirt? Jaqueto. Kono jaqueto. What was the word for size? Ele saisu. I love Japanese. Ele saisu arimasu ka. Kono supon eme saisu arimasu ka. Kono jinsu ese saisu arimasu ka. Kono koto kuro arimasu ka. So now I'm starting to figure out how do adjectives go? Do they go before or after the thing? Right. Kono kutsu shiro arimasu ka. What if I start like kono jaqueto wa ao desu. So like this jacket is blue. Kono zupon wa aka desu. These pants are red. Koto kutsu. Okay. So kono kutsu hairo kutsu wa hairo desu. Kono koto kono katsu wa chairo desu. These shoes are brown. This coat is gray. I mean, I have no idea, to be honest. Haven't gotten that far. But when I did notice that it said like planning to as like the definition. But this, like when I looked it up, was what it gave me for like the idea of going to, which like at the end of the day, there's not really that much difference between saying like I mean, I guess there is between saying I'm going to do this. There's a little bit more like assuredness, I guess, versus I plan to do this. But good to know. Good to know. So you're saying that like uh, you just have to say like the verb, right? Like say like run, like I run or something like that, and that is taken as like I will run or I'm going to run. mm, you probably you're a little ahead of me on that question. I don't really know how I'm going to apply this um, to like my daily life. Um, I do have a friend who's also learning Japanese, so maybe I start to talk with him. I think it's really important to find non-native speakers who can speak the language well, um, in order to practice with them first, because it allows you to practice with somebody else who's also learning, and so you guys both speak a little simpler. You guys are speaking pretty, standard, not using slang. I think that's really important. And then Mexico City. I live in Mexico most of the year. I'm not there right now, but Mexico City has a ton of Japanese speakers. So that is one way that I could practice as well, is just going and chatting with people in Japanese. Mm, it's obviously going to be a huge pain in the butt, right? Um, but like for now, probably the way in which I'll do most of my practice is with like these chat GPT bots that I program to be like, because you can use it to practice reading, to practice writing, to practice conversation. Um, and I could even like sit there and talk to it and have it like role play these scenarios for me, which now that I think about it is something I need to program into the bot when I get a chance. But um, I have one that I use for all my Spanish students that lets them choose of whether they want to practice like a certain grammar idea or whether they want to practice like to role play a scenario. And then it just like sits there and asks you questions. So that's probably how I practice this once I get around to that. All right. Love it. Okay. I don't care about. Okay, the spelling things I'm messing up a little bit, but starting to make sense. So these patterns, I think I'm gonna copy. Seems to me that Japanese is mostly a lot of patterns. That's cool. We all love a good pattern when it comes to learning a language. Boo, 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 boo. Do, 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 do. Let's see, what else can I ask for? Okay. Chaqueto o So the other thing I'm going to ask about this is what's left here. Explain to me about O. I assume it's a particle. One thing that it gets to a point where I'm like just tired of practicing and like forcing myself to come up with things, but I can still like ingest information, right? So like I can ask like, what does this mean? What does that mean? Explain to me this, and kind of understand it, which gives me like I think of it like a heads up, I guess, or like a head start on tomorrow, right? Um, okay, so that's the color Shigao, um, and this is ch like in chocolate or as in shoe. Yo, what's up? Who's this new person in here? I love to see more people jumping in. Can I see who's in here? You guys don't interact? I don't think so. What it does. Okay, so O is an object particle. Great. So, okay. Okay. Imasu. Okay. So now I can ask like rules for masu form to te form, and what is te form? No, it's chocolate. Okay. So one of the reasons I like the ChatGPT too is because I can sit here and as I continue to use it, it's gonna learn with me, and so it's not gonna point out stuff that it knows I already know and I've already practiced, right? And it's also nice because I can just go back, like I don't have to like write all this down necessarily. I'm like learning it now, so that's kind of entering into my brain, but I'm not necessarily sitting here and studying and practice with it. But it can be like what I use to warm up tomorrow, or it can be like the grammar part of what I study tomorrow. You know, um, I think that you should. I mean, especially once you're like an intermediate in a language, you should not be studying grammar. You should be going out and using it. Like I'm at the point with Arabic right now, where like I can understand most things when I'm reading, and so like I only really pay attention to the grammar and ask questions as I go and like start noticing things, versus like sitting there and just studying a grammar textbook. Like there's no quicker way. I want to like you know hit myself in the head. Like it's terrible. So study grammar only as it comes up, right? Which is kind of what I'm applying here. Is like as I'm seeing things, I'm like, okay, what is this, right? And then that gives me different things to study, right? And so tomorrow, I want to start getting into like family and being able to ask questions and how does that work. And so I'll also add in all of this stuff of like the te form and trying to use chigao and the imasu, the like present progressive, to kind of figure that out along with whatever new stuff I get into of like the family and whatnot. Um, yeah, cool. I'm happy with this session. Sweet. You got any other final questions here before I wrap up? Comments, concerns, worries? Yeah, pretty content with that. Okay. Cool. I mean, it kind of depends. Like, are you familiar with the CEFR scale of like language learning, right? Where like you have like A, B, C, with A being like intermediate or beginner, B being intermediate, and C being like advanced, and then you've got one and two, which is like just upper and lower, right? Um, I think that a solid B1 level is good enough to where you can like maintain that language without studying it necessarily, or you can very quickly bring it back to that level. Like for me, Italian and German are like two languages I haven't studied in a long while. So they're probably hovering on that like A2 B1 border. But I think I know I can pretty quickly bring those back up to par. And like B1 is like you're passing the Barstool test. You can have a pretty decent conversation about most normal everyday things. You're not gonna be like debating philosophy. You can read most things. You can start to even read like the news and stuff. If I sat there and really, I would struggle my way through it for sure. But like a newspaper article in German, I could get through it. Um, so like, I like to think that I would like to have them all at B2, right? Like my Spanish is like C2. My French and Portuguese is like B2. My probably German and Arabic are like B1 ish. And then my Italian is probably A2, right? Um, and like my goal would be to have them, at least the ones I frequently use, at B2, right? But it also depends. Like I like to travel a lot. So like, for example, Italy, as much as I love Italy, I don't go there often enough to where I like necessarily need it, right? So for me, that's more of like a reading language, right? Um, but I would say somewhere in that, like, if you're at that like B1 level, that's a pretty competent level to where you can like use it for most things and on your day-to-day life without much of a struggle. Um, so like that's like the minimum level I shoot for before I start like getting bored and trying to find another language. Uh, but like B2 is probably where I would try and get to if it's like a language I'm taking seriously, right? Like the next one I want to get to B2 is that Arabic, um, and try and keep my German and Italian around that B1 level, and then get Japanese to that like B1 level. Like unless I'm gonna travel there frequently, which is why like or I'm around people who speak that language, which is why my like French and Portuguese are a little bit better. Because I've traveled to Brazil, I've been to France. Uh, I get the chance to practice French quite often, Brazilian or Portuguese as well. Um, Brazilian. Those for me are languages that are a little easier to keep near A2 or B2, excuse me. Um, but yeah, like if it's a language that I'm gonna of a country I'm gonna travel to, or I want to use a lot, or I like, or I enjoy. Also, the fact that they're super similar to Spanish makes it a lot easier. Yeah, I try to keep those at B2. If they're a little harder or like a little less used, B1. You know, honestly, I think you should be at a B1 level within like 3 months of studying a language, with the exception of it being like I don't want to say that right now with Japanese, and then be 4 months down the line and be like, oh god. Yeah, like if it's like Arabic or like Arabic took me like probably 6 months to get to the point where I got to Italian in like 2 months, you know. So depends the hardness of the language and you know when you foresee yourself using it. Like for me, like I don't foresee myself traveling to Japan anytime soon. I'll get the chance to practice with Japanese people in Mexico City, yes, but like traveling to Japan and using it on a day-to-day basis, probably not. But like if I went to Japan with that B1 level, I'd be super stoked. If that makes sense. My voice sounds terrible. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, I've heard Korean's a huge pain in the butt. I think you would refresh Spanish pretty quickly if you ever want to join a class. Um, I'll send you my email. Feel free to reach out. I've got all kinds of levels for that, from everything from like super beginner to uh, like all the way up to like the most advanced you could possibly get to. So yeah, send me a message there, or I think you can get my WhatsApp off of like page here. I don't want to share that. Well, I guess you're such a little person. If you want to send me a WhatsApp, you can do that as well. What is it? 554966. Um, but Korean, I've heard, is a pain in the butt. I've heard it's very difficult, lots of levels of formality. How long have you been learning Japanese here to get to the level you're at? I think that's an important point too. Like, I don't think you should expect your languages to be at the level of English. Like, it took you 20 plus years to get to the level where you're like able to confidently speak and be like a give a good opinion on things. Like, after you've been to college and specialized in whatever you studied, you know. So like, it's gonna take roughly the same amount of time. It's gonna take you 10 years. Like, Spanish to get to C2 took me 15 years. You know, like it takes a long, like, because you can't get to like C2 or really even C1 unless you like go abroad to the country, you know, because that's more about like slang and culture and being able to like make jokes and things like that more than just like, can I read this book, you know. Nice. Yeah, dude, I mean, like, that's probably basically where you should be. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a super dope level to be at. Like, if you've been studying for 5 years, you should definitely be at that point of like, I can go live abroad and comfortably handle most things. I can have a conversation on most things. Um, Maybe not like discussing philosophy or like art history, but even those like uh, the topics you're interested in, being able to like have like really decent conversations about them. Like I really like philosophy, and so like even in like French or Portuguese, I could probably speak about philosophy, but like it doesn't necessarily mean everybody needs to. You know, there's like things I wouldn't be able to speak about, like art history or architecture or whatever. So like, yeah, dope. Yo, what up? New person joined in. Catching us kind of at the end, but you'll be able to watch this whole video on YouTube. Take away some insights. I'll also make a wrap up video about day two and publish it on the channel. So be sure to follow, like, subscribe, all that good jazz. Uh, right on, y'all. Thank you guys so much for joining. Pleasure having you.